This is the Art of Imperfect Adulting. I'm your host, Amy Stone. I share stories from real people who have already been through some hard stuff. Why? So that you don't feel alone while you're busy figuring out your own life. Let's do this. Hello, friends. My guest today is Leisa Reid. Leisa, are you ready to have a fun chat?
Absolutely.
All right. I start all of my conversations with the very same question. What part of the world do you call home? And secret part of the conversation or the question, what do you like about what you call home?
I call home Rancho Santa Margarita in Southern California, specifically Orange County. And what do I love about it? I love that it's peaceful, that it's safe, that it's beautiful weather, and I live like I'm on vacation.
That sounds like a lot of really wonderful stuff to love. I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, my second question is my variant on how to ask the age-old tale of, how old are you without actually asking, how old are you? So, which of the following generations descriptions matches your age? Are you a silent generation, a baby boomer, Gen X, millennial, Gen Z?
Well, I'm technically 28, but I identify as a Gen X.
Okay. Very good, very
And I'm
good.
just kidding. I am officially a Gen X.
Very good, very good. I would say I haven't always asked this question. It's, just part of the way to give people who are in the audience a way to align and match and build rapport with the guest. But and so I haven't been categorizing it, but I would bet that the majority of the guests I've had so far are actually Gen X, which is interesting because part of the premise of the show is to hopefully, cross over the age groups. But we'll see how I do with that. And so here we are. All right. So the topic of the day, not whether or not one person is Gen X and is not, is actually stand-up comedy. And so I'm very excited for this conversation. Are you ready to talk about comedy?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Very good. Okay. So I don't think that stand-up comedy is what most people know about you. I think that you have, some definitely some, but that's the question. What percentage of your connection group, your professional and friend group and family group knows that this is a part of of who you are?
Well, probably a very small percentage. My close family knows, and some of my close friends know, but it is not something I share publicly. And I've had a very short, let's say, one night stand relationship with stand-up comedy. So
Okay.
that's partially why people don't know about it.
All right, I appreciate that. That is one of the questions that we'll talk about later. Is like how is this gonna be a big thing? All right, so like let's figure out, and I will explain later why we're talking about stand up comedy because one of the fun things about this particular conversation is that I had this idea to talk about it, not you. Usually it goes the other way around. Guests pitch what they want to talk about, but I actually came to you and was like, yeah, we could talk about that, but how about we talk about this other thing that I know about you? So how did it come to be though? Like, how did you dream of being a comedian when you were a kid? Did you have a friend who was already doing stand-up comedy? How did this start?
None of that happened. So up until maybe a year and a half ago, in my mind, I always thought that would be the scariest thing in the whole wide world. Or, one of the scariest ways of speaking, I would say, would be stand-up comedy. And I had that thought because the irony is that I'm a public speaker. I mean, I teach people about public speaking, and I also happen to be fairly funny and would get a lot of feedback from people. They would always say to me, "Oh my gosh, you're so funny. You should be a stand-up comedian."
Yeah.
And I would have my answer and say, "Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that, but there is no way I would ever do that. That is so scary." Period. So it wasn't a dream from childhood at all. And another objection that I had was I am funny naturally, but not planned.
Okay.
Like I am the worst when it comes to remembering jokes, punchlines. I usually botch the whole thing. I have, sometimes I'll take a picture of a joke because I know I will not remember it, not even like an hour later. So there's that was my other objection of like, I couldn't do it because I can never remember jokes. So
Okay, so extemporaneously in the situation, you can react with one-liners
yes, I call it
and zingers.
quick-wittedness. Like I'm
Quick-witted.
very quick-witted. I am really good at coming up with funny metaphors. I am quick on the ball if something occurs. I usually am saying something funny. And so because of that, my friends and family are constantly cracking up at what I do. The issue up until about a year and a half ago was once it was over, I would never remember what I said.
Okay.
So
But
it
yeah,
wasn't like I had a trunk full of jokes.
so you were getting feedback from people that you were funny and you had people randomly suggest, which this is definitely a thing. Like if you have some punchlines in your book, people will say, I've had people say that to me, you're so funny. I can see you doing stand up. I've never done it.
Hmm.
Because like you, I don't have it's not I don't have a it's a performance. Like the stand up
Hmm.
is a performance. And I don't have that ready to go. So, but I'm fascinated that the fact that part of this is that in your mind this was the scariest form of public presentation that you could think of and you never had any intention of doing it and then you did
No.
do it.
Yeah.
So you didn't have a set ready to go that you just jumped onto an open mic, and it was a scary thing. How then? Let's walk through. Tell me
Yeah.
more about how that changed, because that's not just a oh maybe and then yes. It was like a hard no to oh well now I've done it.
Yes, this is one of those times where y I got an opportunity that I really tried to get out of and then realized because I want to get out of it so bad, I should just say yes. So it was one of those opportunities. And so I was speaking to virtually to a group in Vegas, and one of the attendees booked a call with me and we were chatting, and she said, I'm a manager of a stand-up comedy club, and I think you would be great. And I went into my regular spiel. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I get that all the time. There's no way in God's green earth I would do that. And she said, well, what if I coached you on how to create a set? Again, I'm thinking, how can I get out of this? And she's like, I'll do it for free. And I'm like, oh, come on. And she's really like, just stop being so generous. And she really overcame every objection that I had. But the deal was, and I am not a person to go back on my word, the deal was she would coach me for free. And, we had X amount of sessions and give me tips. And my agreement was to do a live set at an open mic and send it to her and record it and send it to her and like give her a testimonial, of which I did. So this was in the fall of 2024, and my birthday is in January. And so I made a deal with myself. I said, well, instead of a birthday party, I am going to have a stand-up comedy debut for my birthday,
Okay.
which meant I had about 3-ish months to figure out what I was going to do for 5 minutes on stage.
Okay. All right. So I want to go back to something that you said and ask you to talk a little bit more about it because I don't think that anybody has talked about it directly on the show, or at least not in the way that you brought it up. But you said that because you were so resistant to it, you saw that as a signal to then lean into it and go the other way. Talk a little bit more about why that, like why that was a signal for you.
Well, and it was a safe, risky yes. You know what I mean? It wasn't like she was saying jump up a cliff. There's this thing in my head that I was scared to do. And yet there was this person saying, I got you. Like, I'm going to make it safe for you. And I could hear and feel the resistance of wanting to stay comfy and in my own little safety blanket zone and not put myself out there. And then I'm like, why am I saying no to something that actually wouldn't hurt anybody? It would quell this like I get so much feedback saying that I should do this. Maybe I should do this. I don't know. Maybe like I don't know. I've never tried it before. And at an open mic, probably not going to be the worst thing. No one will really hear it or see it or whatever. So I had to right size my fear about it.
Okay. And so is this a cue that you've looked for in other spots in your life? Is this something that you've learned to lean into based on experience that if you feel yourself resisting something, that's something to look closer at? Or is this the only time that's ever come up in your
No,
life?
I definitely will. If it's something I want and it's different than what I currently have, there is going to be resistance. So I know
Yeah.
the human body and the behavior enough to know there will be resistance. And I am pretty down for like, okay, let's expand. Let's see what's out there. Even if I'm scared, I'll do it anyway, type of a person. In some respects. I'm not like a daredevil. I'm not an adrenaline junkie or anything like that. But I definitely, I think secretly was like, well, maybe I am funny. I am funny. Like, what's my deal? Come on,
Okay.
Lisa, get over it.
All right. So that yes, so that's very interesting. That is interesting. So because people you had gotten this feedback, you are a person who does speak in public. So the normal fear of, visibility and speaking generally that we know that some people speaking publicly is such a it is equivalent to jumping out of a burning building. It is a very big fear that some people have. But that wasn't you. It was just this limited thing, and then you ended up in this situation where, even though you'd said no a bunch of times, this person met every single one of the objections with a way that made it safe enough that you no longer needed to say no, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, it was definitely not something I still was scared. I was
Yeah.
still scared because I'm like, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. I don't know how to write a joke. I don't know if I could say anything planned, funny for 5 minutes. Oh my gosh, and everyone's staring at me. So I definitely was not sure at all what I was going to do or say, but I was willing to trust her, and
Okay.
I'm glad that I did.
All right. And so this sounds like it was a one on one coaching, not a cohort of
No,
people
just me and her. Yeah.
developing a script and all going through it together. So you didn't have group support as you got ready. You were not surrounded by other newbies who were also going through their same round of jitters.
No, and not at all. And one of the things that I did do, of course, because I help people get their signature talks ready. So I mean, I'm not like a stranger to like putting something together. I thought, okay, I'm going to start with three things. If I can do three jokes that all kind of are around the same type of thing, that will fill the 5 minutes. So, and I had to also ask, because of course I'm not just thinking of this one thing, I'm thinking of the whole thing. I'm like, what's my brand? What's my message? What kind of comedian am I? I totally go into like this whole like entrepreneur marketing, specialist. I even never done it before. And so I thought, okay, I don't want to make fun of other people. Like I don't mind making fun of myself, but my husband does a lot of things that are funny, but I didn't want his family to watch it and go, wow, she's just, giving him a hard time, or
Yeah.
anyone to think anything bad about anyone I'm around. And so I thought, what can I do about myself that's funny? So I thought, that's the kind of comedian I am. I'm a kind of comedian who's going to kind of joke around about my own personal experiences, and leave everyone else out of it.
Yeah, and that is a thing with comedy. Like what are you gonna what kind of comedian are you gonna be? Are you gonna be, somebody who makes fun of situations? Are you gonna be, so I think that that's a good reflection. I love that you said that you went immediately into the entrepreneur mindset that's like, okay, if I'm going to be shopping in this store, how would I turn this shopping experience into a business? Like you immediately, like your brain just turned on and we're like, how would I brand this? Who am I in this situation? Because that is a thing that people do when they're in business, so that's very good. What was the hardest part that you would say of getting ready for this now that you're looking back?
I spent so much energy and time on that 5 minutes, and I thought, okay, I need to figure out a way to make that faster and easier. So my next step would definitely be learn how to really like write comedy, write a set. Like I thought, gosh, if I had 10 5-minute sets or 5 10-minute sets, like I'd have an hour. My Netflix special is right around the corner, when I have
Yeah.
that hour of comedy. So it was more of like how to write more content that really lands because I do want to do a really good job. And so I spent a lot of time rewriting, rehearsing, rewriting again, rehearsing, switching things up, taking things out, timing, because you can't go over your time in comedy either. And so there was a lot in my mind in terms of the energy put output in making it a presentable set.
It doesn't surprise me at all. I have a feeling that I've always had the perception that even though comedy looks very casual and easy and extemporaneous, I've always had the perception that I think there's hundreds of hours of practice that go into making it look that relaxed, even though I've never done it. I think that, especially the things that look like they're very, very relaxed, like sitting on the couch on a talk show, I feel like there must be just days and days of practice behind that, but I'm just guessing. All right. So the hardest part was this new style of writing. So you have feedback in your life that you are a funny person, but you were writing this material that was going to go live in this open mic night. I have two questions. One is, did you find the open mic night, or did your coach like help you find it? And then the other thing is, did you have people you were bouncing these jokes off of? How did you figure out whether or not you thought it was going to be funny?
Yes, I found the open mic night, and it was in a part of town I don't ever go in, and it was in this really obscure little comedy club. And honestly, it was like magically the perfect scenario. What I didn't want to do is go to the event and then not know if I was going to get a spot. Like I
Okay.
needed to know, like, you're guaranteed a spot. And this place had that because not every open mics are different. It depends on the rules of the house.
Yeah.
The other thing that was super cool was they videotaped it for you for $15, and they would send you an edited clip where it was just you getting introduced on stage and you ending, and they had it all set up perfectly dialed in. So I was like, oh, this is great. I'll just pop that right onto my YouTube channel, which I did. And that was an amazing gift because that's not always the case. Then I didn't have to worry about anyone on my family trying to get a video of it or get a certain type of approach that way.
That is really interesting. So it's very interesting. So I have a friend who did improv class as an adult, a community improv class, and they also had a stand-up type class where they would do. So this was like a cohort that she was
Mhm.
doing, and then the people who were doing that school, they then hosted these open night performances so the people in the class had a spot. But you jumped into somebody else's open mic, and so I think that feels brave to me. Did you just Google open night Orange
I
County?
did.
Like,
I Googled it and then I emailed the owner and, had a few different questions and scheduled it. And part of this was because I was doing this for my birthday party. So I'm inviting
yes.
everyone. So I need to know how many, seats, what's this whole deal. And so what I did is I figured all that out. And then one of my best friends and I went the week before to do a dry run because I'm like, I need to just get eyes on this place. Like, how big is it? What's the deal? How do we do this? And I put my name in and I did a dry run there. And I paid the $15 for that one too. And
Okay.
so technically I've done it twice.
I was gonna say, so
Um,
when you say you did a dry run, what you mean is you went to the open mic night like a few weeks ahead and just did it.
1 week ahead.
One week
1 week,
ahead,
yeah,
and the only
1 week
difference
ahead,
then
and I
is
did
it
it.
wasn't your audience. You didn't have the people who
Yes,
knew you in the
it was just
audience.
the open mic people. And so there's like, 6 people there or something.
All of them
And
there to do
so
their own set.
they're all doing their
Yes.
own thing.
Yes.
And so the next time I came in, I filled the house. Like it was packed, but was all my people and probably the largest audience they had ever had. I don't know. But and then I asked if I could go last
Okay.
because, I'm the headliner in my mind already on my first my first performance.
Right.
And I brought the house down. But I had a very warm audience.
But yeah, what did people in your invitation list? You send out an evite or a printed card inviting them to the birthday party. What did people think about this when they found out that this was what you were doing for your
They
birthday
were so
party?
excited. They were
Yeah.
so excited. Yeah, they were like, "Oh my gosh," they couldn't wait to be a part of it and to watch me. And I said, "You do not have to bring me a gift, but you do have to laugh. That is the only requirement.
You
You have to
must
laugh at all my
laugh.
jokes."
All right,
Leave your
so
gifts at home.
leave your gifts at home, but bring your smiles. So the YouTube video is how I knew that you did this. So at some point in the past, you and I crossed paths and had a conversation, and it came up, and you sent me the stand-up video, which is how I knew that you did that. And then fast forward when we were conversing via email about having you on the show and talking about choices and decisions, you pitched something wonderful that would have been great. And I then came back to you and was like, Leisa, this would be great, but would you be willing to talk about comedy and doing this? Because I think that that would be a fantastic thing to talk about. And so that is the backstory of this. And I don't think you have talked about it very much. So I think it's very
I have not.
smart. I think there's a lot of things in here that are there. These are the decisions that are behind the decision. It's like the decision to do this. You made the decision to take it seriously, to turn it into an event where you had support. All of those, I think, are very big decisions. So, how do you think? So you have already answered this actually, but I feel like you almost hedged it. You did this one night stand, which is actually two night stands because you did a dry run,
Yeah.
which says so much about your personality. But that is a conversation for a different day. And then, but do you have any itch or desire or intention to do any more stand-up type comedy?
That's a great question. And I also realized I didn't answer your other question, so I'll come back to that one. I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it.
Yeah.
And then when I went on the dry run and saw the other people, and obviously, they're amateurs. It's a open mic night. It's not, it's not in Hollywood or anything like that. I thought, okay, I think my stuff's funnier than any of these other people. And I kind of had it all dialed in where some people had their notes out and were just like coming up with something on the fly. And literally. And I thought, okay, I know what I'm doing here. And then the second time I did it, like with my warm audience and a full room, I definitely got that speaker high. If you're a speaker and listening here, I always call it the drug-free drug. It feels so good to be up there and really resonating with the audience. And I definitely felt, ooh, I definitely want to do this again, but I would like more content. And so I thought I want to get like a comedy writing class. I want to take a
Yeah.
class and like start to learn more like the structure of it and really uh, get that down. Now, all that to say, I have not yet done that. I've reached out to a couple people, but whatever. Comedians sometimes aren't in the best business mindset, so they're like, we don't have anything available. I'm like,
Right.
okay. And so I let it lay dormant for a while. And then I thought, the best thing I could do is at least just jot down funny things as they come to me because I'm not going to, like I said, I'm not going to remember. So I do have a full like Google sheet of if something occurs to me, I'm in the shower or something occurs to me in the middle of the night, I will jot it down. I'll tell stories about things. And it could be something as innocuous as like trying to get the Ross sticker off the back of a shoe, which is like super impossible.
Oh,
If you've ever
yes.
tried that, it's like you need the tweezers and the WD-40 and it's ridiculous. The amount of sweat and equity that I can put into getting a sticker off the bottom of a new shoe. So something like that, I'll just be like, I'm gonna just jot this down and maybe someday I'll be telling a joke about it.
All right, so that's very cool. Yeah, I think that, we call that, practicing the craft, right, of anything, whether it's, podcasting, extemporaneously speaking, writing a newsletter, speaking, right? You've got
Mhm.
a lot of craft. And it's like so many things, there's more to it than meets the eye. And so your professionalism shows through that you're like, all right, I would like to, if I'm going to do any more of this, I would choose to learn about it. And then I think you highlight something that is a very real thing in any profession, but definitely performance, which is that it can be tricky sometimes to figure out where you go to practice your craft and who do you learn from and who can you trust.
Yeah, and I also think the other part of it is like it's not like I'm trying to create a comedy career. I am somewhat joking and I'm like, okay, I'm ready for my Netflix special. I just
Right.
did my one comedy night. But I don't, and I knew this very clearly, that day when I did my one time show, is I don't want to be in comedy clubs till 1 in the morning or 10 at night. I don't want to be in that kind of environment. That's not the kind of lifestyle I want to have. I like comedy and I like going to comedy clubs, but I don't want that like traveling lifestyle. That's not something I'm interested in. I also am horrible at putting videos on, TikTok and all the things. So I'm just
Yeah.
like, d- just because I enjoy it doesn't mean, oh, now I need to have this as my new second career or anything like that. I think just as long as I'm having fun, that's the path I'm gonna take.
Yeah. I mean, it's a complicated hobby if you're going to do it as a hobby because you need the audience. But, if
Right.
you, right. So it's not like playing piano where you can play at home for yourself, and I've had conversations with many adults about hobbies that require these complex setups. If your hobby is playing in a quartet, that's more complicated. If your hobby is playing on part of a team, you need the support
Yeah.
of a league. It's like it's a little different than if your hobby is going for a walk by yourself with your dog, which you can just do at any time. So I see that. I definitely do. So, how would you say that making this choice to do this impacted your life? Like, what's the effect of having made this decision to go ahead and do this?
I think it allowed people to see me in a different light. And also, even though I did it, like when you came back to me about stand, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot I did that. Like I literally am like, oh, and I have other friends who or colleagues who I've sent the video to because they wanted to see it. And they're like, meet my friend Lisa. She's a stand-up comedian. And I'm like, well, not really. I mean, am I?
Yeah.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, everybody. But that's what they really love. And I'm like, oh, cool. If I'm bringing joy to people in that form, I'm happy to do so. So it's definitely an accomplishment. I would say I'm very proud of myself for doing it because I still think it does take a lot of bravery. And it was something that I was scared to do and that I did it. And so that's that's a gift in itself.
It definitely is. And I think that you're a great person to reflect on that because you do a different type of presenting with a different feedback loop and a different sort of self identity. So I think it's a really interesting comparison. Okay. So normally at this point in the conversation, what I do is I ask people why they wanted to tell this story on this show. That question doesn't make any sense talking to you because this was not your idea. It was my idea. So I've modified the questions a teeny tiny bit, which is, what do you kind of hope that people get out of hearing this story of you, pushing your boundaries and trying a different type of presentation and putting yourself in that spot of being uncomfortable? What's your sort of hope, if you have one, of what people will take from listening to the story?
Well, the reason I do what I do outside of my vast comedy experience is
Two
that
sold
I
out
believe, yeah,
nights.
well, one sold out night, but yeah, is I believe everybody has a brilliance to share, like some kind of gift that they bring to that they could, if they choose to, bring to the world. And when people do that, it raises the consciousness of our planet, which I'm a huge fan of. And so being able to give one of my gifts is really awesome. And that's what I do. I do professionally. I help people create their talk. It's just they're creating their signature talk. But one thing that's really nice about it is that they can see, even though I've spoken over on 600 stages and whatever, I can still get nervous. Like I still take risks. And that's what it's all about. There's no one who can do your push-ups for you when you're on stage. It is you, you, and you, baby. And it can feel scary. It can feel vulnerable, but that's also the juicy part of it. Like that's the exciting part of it. Like you can do this and affect other people. And it's not about us, it's about what you can do for others, in my opinion.
So I think there's a lot to unpack in there. Like, so there is in self help, self development, sports, so many things. There is this sort of message of your success is on the other side of your discomfort. Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Those messages about that, and yet sometimes it's hard to actually understand what that sense of discomfort actually feels like. And there is this misunderstanding that it just goes away. So you might get very used to doing something like standing up and speaking as an educator or walking people through their keynote talks, their signature talks, but you have now been an example of putting yourself in a spot where you were uncomfortable. And I think that one of the things that's helpful about your story is how much build-up time there was. There was discomfort in making the decision. Like you really wrestled with that with yourself, and probably for a long time you had been just like, no, 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 which is a set of
Hmm.
discomfort. Then when you were invited to do it, you're like, oh, no, no. And then you're like, oh, well, maybe that's discomfort, like being in that
Hmm.
there. And then doing the work of all of those things and to highlight how uncomfortable you were is the week before, like, well, let's go try it out to be sure I don't die. So, so that definitely is a thing. All right, comedy is not your main gig, and you have talked about it a little bit about getting people ready for their signature talk. I want you to take a second and actually tell people what you do because it's like we've talked around it, but
Yeah.
go ahead and tell people what it is that you do professionally.
Yeah, when I'm not on the comedy stage, I work with entrepreneurs who want to use public speaking as a marketing strategy. So they somehow just like love the idea of being a speaker and they want to use it to attract their ideal clients. So we, work on, giving birth to their brilliance, which is the signature talk, having that aligned brilliance, aligned visibility, meaning like, let's figure out where those talks need to be given, what kind of audiences are best for you, what's your customized speaking strategy so you can get booked, and then getting that momentum of support throughout the rest of the year so that you can continue to craft and evolve your message and learn how to use the speaking model to attract your clients.
So I can see how that is actually similar. I can see how you would just really get right up against and given the opportunity in comedy, how you would immediately begin to be like, oh, well, is this the same sort of model of what I help people do just in a different genre? And be like, how, if I was to build a comedy, it's different because performance versus business oriented, but I can see the alignment, or I think I can.
Yeah, there is some alignment in I work with a lot of people who might have some nervousness. In fact, I just led a talk earlier this morning, and there was people talking about hesitancy and nervousness and shaking and uh, questioning and imposter syndrome. All those things were discussed. And the reality is and you even naturally mentioned, you're like, oh, people would rather run out of a burning building
Yeah.
than be a public speaker. And I'm kind of like, no, they wouldn't. Like we oftentimes will just kind of poo-poo like, oh yeah, it's a normal phobia, ha ha ha. It's actually just a conversation we haven't had yet with ourselves. Like there's something way back in the past, some baggage that we've been carrying around for a while, saying like the body says we're never doing that again. We're never going to get humiliated or have that embarrassment again. And then we just carry that with us until it's questioned and you're like, "Wait, why do I always have this desire to share something? Like why am I like dreaming of myself being on stage? I hate public speaking. That would be the worst thing, but maybe it wouldn't." Like so
Yeah.
it's like a really common occurrence and I'm here to say like just we can overcome all that and if you have a message to share, it starts to overcome that fear.
I wonder if that so like so many of those performance-based fear presentation type things are rooted in school-based scenarios where we're doing something that we don't have competency yet and we feel judged and there could be communities so that can happen in a classroom, it can happen in in a parochial
Hmm.
setting, all of those things that happen in having to read out loud
Yep.
in like school, like or and you're caught, unprepared and you
Hmm.
mispronounce a word or whatever. I would,
Hmm.
I was in a classroom once where somebody said Quixote instead of Quixote,
Oh, sure.
and very smart person just had never seen the word, but we did all laugh, and I've always felt terrible about it. And so all of those things. The thing that I wonder is now we have such a different view of and window into people who are performing all the time. So, uh, all of the stuff that's online and all of the shorts and all of the reels and all the Netflix specials and all of those things, it's just changed so much in the last like 30 years. And people are doing all of this sort of creation and zooming and show making really a lot earlier. I wonder if it'll change. I wonder if they did that same sort of survey that's like, public presentation, is that the scariest thing? I wonder if you get the same numbers today as you would in like 1950, 1960, 1980. There's no
It
answer to
is
that.
interesting. Well,
Yeah,
yeah, and what's funny is that there's also a massive increase in social anxiety, right? So
right.
it's like two extremes.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to share every single part of my life and not look perfect and be super messy and all this to don't everyone, hopefully no one ever asks me a question at the store, or I never have to make a phone call, never have to talk to
Yes.
a human being on the street. So there's this like very vast um, continuum of our comfort level in terms
That's
of
true.
communication.
That is really true. It's one of the things, like, because like you, I have had a presentation element of my life for such a long time that sometimes people will ask me to speak about like the anxiety and the fear. And one of the things I tell people honestly is I don't experience that as the same way I would as if I was starting today because I've been doing it for such a long time.
Mhm.
And like you said, a safe space. Like I was young enough that I was introduced to it in a, it didn't feel as scary as it would if it was new. But yeah, no, one of the things that catches me off guard, which it doesn't make me nervous or anything, but it's an uncomfortable moment, is when you have a public profile, even a small one like mine, and somebody knows you in their own way but you don't actually know them, and then you have a
Mhm.
real life encounter, and it's that lopsided conversation because they're a total
Yeah,
stranger.
the
Yeah, the
parasocial
parasocial.
relationship.
Right,
Yeah.
and those can create some sort of funny moments because like they'll talk to you and you're like, I don't actually know you. Like, I don't know.
They're like, you know me, but I don't know anything about you. Yeah.
And it's not like it just feels like stressful. It's like I'd love to get to know you or have this conversation, but I am at a disadvantage at this particular moment. And so that's where that goes. All right, so this is your main gig, and you have a special offer for the people in the audience who are listening to the show, which is top 5 tips to get speaking gigs now. And the links to where to find you and your website and get that freebie are available in the show notes for anybody that is watching. So if you're listening, that's in the audio show notes. If you're watching on YouTube, that's in the show description. The easiest way to get the links for things like this is to be a subscriber to the Imperfect Adulting newsletter for everybody who's in the audience, because then it comes directly into your email box and you can just click on the links. And that's my little plug for my newsletter. Are you ready to wrap this up with my final 2 questions?
Let's do it.
All right, very good. Okay, so we have no shortage of information in 2026. You can just speak your question into the air. Where do light bulbs come from? And the algorithms will feed you the answers. But personal recommendations are even more important, I think, than ever before. Share with us something great that is like aligned with podcasts. So, like a good podcast, a great movie, a fun TV show, a book, something that you've enjoyed lately that you think that the audience might also enjoy.
Well, one of my favorite podcasts besides yours is Armchair Expert with Dax Shepard and Monica Padman. I've been listening since 2018 when they launched, and I love it. And a good, let's see. Yeah,
That's
that's
very
a
good.
great answer.
So yeah, that's the answer. So armchair expert, that's the recommendation. So I do have a follow-up question with that because we were talking about comedy. Have you watched? So did you ever watch the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is like the story of a comedian, or Hacks is another one that's a story about a? Have you seen either one of those shows?
I have seen several seasons of Hacks, not all of them, and then I've seen 1 or 2 seasons of Mrs. Maisel. She's great,
Pretty funny,
and I
yeah.
would say her comedy is, in fact, someone was like, "Oh, you're kind of like her," and well, I would
Ah, okay.
obviously not like that's more my like, making fun of my life type of comedy
Yeah.
would be mine. Yeah.
Oh, I thought in terms of television, I thought that was a really well done show and all of the levels, like just very, very good. And I think the crew in Hacks, it's a totally different plot line, really. And one it has the benefit of being sort of nostalgic, pastimey. Hacks is supposed to be present day, so it has all the modern, angst and
Phone,
all.
I've
Right,
smartphones and
exactly,
stuff. Yeah.
all of that stuff. Right. The characters in Hacks, it also very well done. Pretty good show. So anyway, that was off topic, but there we go. Okay, last question. I called this section of the show unsupervised online shopping. Um, share with us something that you have purchased online, because we all shop online, that you thought was pretty great and other people should go run out and buy it themselves.
Oh my gosh, I'm such an Amazon like fanatic. What have I gotten lately? Oh, you know what? I got these markers. Okay, I'll show you. So if you're watching on video, you can see this. I love colorful
Oh,
markers.
yeah,
And I used to just keep all my notes in with a black pen,
yeah.
but I thought, you know what? I'm sitting here at home working virtually. I'm going to make it fun. So I just pick a different color every day and use those as my note-taking tools. Like today is turquoise. So I've got my 2 turquoise pens.
Very good. Yeah, I saw your gel pens that you use. I get very clicky about pens. I'm like, these are the pens that I use. So like for
Yeah,
a
I've got
very
my
long
gel
time,
pen
right? The
and
Pilot
then the
G2. I was
marker to like,
yes, very good, very good. And the finely tipped Sharpie for a long time was my like go-to. I was like, don't steal my Sharpie. So there we go. All right, that's it. Leisa Reid, thank you very much for being a wonderful guest today on the show.
thank you.
Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Before I go, I want to encourage you to become a bigger part of the conversation. Please subscribe wherever you're listening or watching the show. That helps my stats. A request from the bottom of my indie creator heart is to please tell your friends about the show. That is the real way new people discover it. If you feel motivated, I would love it if you rated the show or wrote a review on whatever platform you are using. Please be sure to head over to imperfectadulting.com and sign up for the email community. I call this the Village. You'll get some free stuff right away, and you'll begin to get the weekly emails that I send. This includes the links for special offers from any guests on the show and cool stuff I put together for the community. There's a lot more going on than just this show, and the only way to find out is to get the emails. Plus, you're busy. You don't have time or desire to follow every single tidbit on social media, and you don't have to because I'm happy to send it to you. If you have a story you'd like to share with the audience, I have an open application for guests. Guess where you'll find it? That's right, on the website and in the emails. And that's a wrap for this episode. Until next time, remember that the journey is the destination. Ralph Waldo Emerson said that, not me. Well, until just now. I did just say it. But what I want you to hear today is that if your adulting journey isn't going the way you expected, that just may not mean you're lost. It may mean that you're just on your way. And now, the fine print. The Art of Imperfect Adulting podcast and streaming video show is a copyrighted work created and produced by Amy Stone and Amy Says So. The music was written and produced by Todd Thompson at Dharma Bomb Studios. All rights are reserved. Anything expressed on this show is offered as entertainment, and the views of the guests may not always represent the ideas and viewpoints of the host. That's me. Amy Stone does not intend to hold myself, herself out to provide professional advice or recommendations of any kind. In the end, you and you alone need to make those kinds of decisions based on your personal and individual situation, needs, circumstances, and comfort level. Yeah, it's a little weird for me to talk about myself in the third person, but you get the idea. This is Amy Stone, signing off.